your romantic odes of insurrection, those too. And yet, as she talks, I am listening and I am writing. And as she talks about her own specific story, I am thinking about how she is saying something about how there are not that many possible loves. When I say that, I am not saying something about lovers. There are endless possible lovers. There are more than 7 billion possible lovers most days. The categories of love, however, are multiple and yet also limited. When I decided to have a child, I said I wanted to have a child because I wanted to experience all the loves. I had experienced many loves of the limited possible loves. I had loved many ways too. I had put parts of my body inside other bodies and let other bodies enter mine. And I had not done this, and I had still loved with an intensity, variously. I inventoried these loves sometimes. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. But I studied these loves and I coveted them and I held on to them and I respected them. But before I had a child, I had not yet known the love of growing another body inside my body. And I had not yet known the love of letting that body come out and go off into the world. And after that, I needed to also learn to love the toddler who takes off, loving the moment when the love runs away and from the running gets both attention and freedom from attention, gets being alive and gets his will to go on, gets to know that this running towards and running away will be life in its best moments because it feels so good, so now, so full of every best moment yet to come. Before, I just knew running, the love of running. I did not yet know the love of the lover of running. But after that, I learned to love the lover of running, and I am writing that down. I am writing this down. I am not happy with any of it. I turn off my computer with annoyance. I finish my coffee, and I leave. I walk out into a warm late afternoon, leaves still on the trees, but not for long, sun at a slant, and go to meet a friend. My friend waits for me on a nearby corner. We hug, decide to get dinner in a bar. We eat fried fish, drink dark beers. There is a coleslaw that is heavy on mayonnaise. The beer cuts the grease in my mouth, and I am glad to have it. The bar is warm, vibrant. Feels as if it has been there for years, but I know it is new, fake, and I don't really care. We talk about non-revolution, about how they are, about where they might be now, will they come back, what is left of them. My friend is years younger than me and more experienced too, and she thinks of the last few years as life, not as a lover she met on the street and took up with briefly. She has been in and out of jail, house arrested too. She has blockaded several ports. I tell her as we talk about how so many of the poets that I know, many of them poets that I love in a certain complicated way, are writing about their hesitations about being with non-revolution. And I have a long list of poems, books of poems, prose too, blog posts, status updates, interviews, conversations at parties. I tell her how I am abandoning the mantra of it's all good, it's all fucked. And now I just want to walk around muttering, fuck all you all. I am sensitive, I told her. They are hurting me, I told her. They keep writing justifications about how they refuse to throw down with non-revolution. They mention non-revolution's bad aesthetics, their awkward dancing, their bad teeth. The way they were always stoned or easy or a mess. Too skinny, they say. Hair on back, as if that was a meaningful insult. Smelly, too. Like sweat, urine, sage, pot, rotting food, hay, all mixed together. Or sometimes it was about them. Because they were in a breakup, because they were in a relationship, because they had a young child, because they liked wine, especially French ones, because it made them feel awkward, because Bifo told them it was okay not to. Because they were writers and they wrote FTP, they didn't have to sing chant with an anti-capitalist crowd. Because they donated on Kickstarter instead, or they watched the live stream. And I couldn't stop reading their accounts, and then on top of them I told her I was feeling both rejected by non-revolution who never texted anymore, not even FTP, and then trivial for falling in love with such a minor uprising, for taking a brief hookup so seriously, for feeling so sad. And there I would be reading, listening, and yet at the same time petulantly going, fuck all you all. And then I would say to myself that at least I had once said to non-revolution, I so want to fuck you, and I meant it. At least I knew that moment. At least I knew something about the sour and the sweet, about the smell of sweat, urine, sage, pot, rotting food, hay, all mixed together, running down the street, holding hands. And come on, that moment. That moment, sometimes one gets to go one's entire life thinking one will show up for that moment if it just came, and it never comes. It is not like any one individual gets to call it into existence. It comes to you as it comes to others, slowly building, and then suddenly there, comes as a sort of lucky. And a version of it came to me, an imperfect version, but still I let all its minorness into me, and now I was something running backwards, something unable to be writing, something nostalgic. My friend looks at me and she says, what is wrong with you? And I say nothing, I'm just confused. And then she said, I was worried you were choking. You had a funny expression. It's like that, a sort of choking. A staring off into space that often precedes a coughing choking. The it of it's all fucked, it's all good. The depression that follows after the most mundane of uprisings is over, life feels less and might for a long time. It might be years before a day will go by that I do not think about non-revolution, wonder where they are, wonder what they are doing, want them back in my social media feeds, want them to text me from the plaza, the park, the statue saying, "We are here, come down." Want them to say it is kicking off or throwing down in the coded way one has to use in the time of the NSA, something that says bring your tools and your masks and your vinegars, something that says FTP. My friend goes on, she makes a joke about poets and Kickstarters, a joke about poets having money. And God bless them, she adds. She is trying to cheer me up and yet trying also to respect me. This respect thing is taking some work on her part. I can tell her that it is puzzling my friend, that I have held on to every possible turn of phrase ever said by a poet and read it as critique, as mattering in some way. She has read nothing of what I am talking about. She doesn't even know the poets really. She does not understand why it even matters to me. I know she finds art at best trivial, at worst capitalist. And I also know she appreciates that when there is a Kickstarter, it is mainly the poets who donate. But still she says the obvious thing that any friend would say to someone who first goes around muttering, "It's all fucked, it's all good," and now goes around muttering, "Fuck all you all." She begins by saying something about how I had it all wrong. How it's more like people are writing heroic stories in which they write themselves into non-revolution's advances and say their way of loving is loving non-revolution. But she gets it. She gets that I am there going, no, they didn't. They didn't love non-revolution like I love non-revolution. Maybe they didn't put their hands in the water when it ran backwards, didn't feel that moment. And yet she continues, they loved and might have even made out, maybe even fucked non-revolution. Maybe you see it as without your intensity, but she continued, why not have some compassion for those who, according to you, missed out? You put your hands in the water, and the backwards water was something you had not felt before, and it made you moist, and now the water goes forward, as it always has. I get it, she says. People have rejected me too, and I too have felt sad about this rejection. But she says next, why the resentment? Is it really that terrible to see someone claim to have loved a lover that you have also loved? We have several more beers, and we continue talking, and she is generous to me, and at some moment she said, oh, you can still think of yourself as pretty despite it all, and I start to cry because she has realized something about how I am trivial. And then we realize we have to leave. She has to go to work. I will go home to read. We hug on the street corner. I watch her walk off confident with many years of walking off ahead of her. I stand on the corner for a few minutes feeling lost with a funny, almost choking expression on my face. I decide to walk home. It will take an hour, but it will let me find myself. I get out my phone. I don't bother to check my feeds. I know nothing is throwing down near me. I am, after all, standing on the corner of 14th and Broadway, so I would know it if something was. Instead, I put on my earphones and click on the radio. A country song about abandonment is playing, about laying down on the bathroom floor, about wasting all those tears. The song is simple in its structure, 3 chords of course, 2 4-line stanzas and 1 half stanza, an extended 10-line refrain. The refrain repeats once after the first stanza and then twice after the second stanza. The song begins and ends with the singer crying on the bathroom floor, but the song resolves it too. I'm through with all the crying, the song states, even though the song gets all its power from being about the soft crying after being left standing on the street corner. I begin walking, determined, head down.